Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the shop. That's what we're going to be taking apart this evening. We begin with the humble smoke detector. A marvel of modern technology. This device uses a small number of 9-volt batteries to keep you safe. I think we'll need a screwdriver. We gotta get in there. There's more than one attachment point here. It might help if I also squeeze the portions that are supposed to be squeezed. Right in here. You said right in here. There we go. Alright. Now we have our speaker, which is connected to the edge here. Or the lid, rather. There we are. To quote AVE, we're in like sin. Alright. Still have 3 wires connected to this little buzzer right here, so we will be trying to get the buzzer out of the front side here. See that in there. We got a light pipe out. Light pipe and button cover. Another one there. Alright, so, what are we looking at? In here, we have a flash bulb. In here, we have a flash bulb, which provides your visual signal when this thing's working. And then around the side of it, we have wires running back to this circuit board up here. We have these 2 little contacts, really clever little switching devices right here. And right there, see those actually contact, I don't know if you can see it there, on jumper wires on the board. You know what, let's try and get the board out. And we can all see what we're doing a little bit better. Standard single layer board. Construction date on this thing, according to the back, is May 18th, 1998. Right there. And that would be pretty standard for the time. No surface mount components, which we can kind of expect. Also notice we got all these little tabs right here for connecting your 9-volt batteries to it. But what I'm really interested in is this mechanism right here. That's cool. They took a little piece of bent metal and then a jumper wire behind it, and that makes the button. Now, on the front here, it says push and hold to test weekly. Weekly. Test this thing weekly. Haha. And then the hush button. So, each one of those contacts one of these. This one would be the press and hold to test. This one would be the hush. And so there's a connection made between those 2 points. On the back of this, what's interesting to me is that it doesn't look like the two ends of that thing are shorted together. Right here, this and this are separate on the board. But this is on an island on its own. Anyway, just an interesting little artifact. That's not the main reason we're in here. Well, the main reason we're in here is for this right here, which is actually radioactive, even though it doesn't say it on here. Or at least I'm assuming this is an americium-based detector. The idea is that you have a little bit of ionization going on in here from the americium, which I believe is a beta emitter. And so as the smoke goes in here through these little louvered openings inside of the vent cap, that allows the ionization to occur quicker, and you get more and more of an ionization current, which you then detect using the little chip soldered underneath, and you'll see that right there. So I see plastic tabs, so that's going to come out. Oh, except it's soldered in place too. Well, we may have to break the board for this, because the americium's a fun thing to get after. You know what, let me take a moment here and go back through the rest of this. In a lot of these older smoke detectors, there's actually an application-specific IC, which you can see here by this dual inline pin row, the dip on the back. That ASIC is usually open top, and that's the ionization detector, and then you have your americium source stored up inside the can. Some of them actually have a radioactive symbol on them, some of them don't. And then this same ASIC then just has all of these capacitors and resistors out here as matching networks, isolation, etc. And then you see these little Qs here, those are little transistors. And those transistors exist to then switch current off and on to the flash bulb circuit, which is going to be using several of these caps, and also to the warbling siren that you get from the piezo buzzer here. Whole thing runs on two 9-volt batteries, which is a lot nowadays, but wasn't that much back in the day, back in '98 when this was built. And let's see, are these gang together or are they separate? So we got the orange for the flash going to here, from the orange tab here for the battery. Then we have a red and a green tied together in series. Okay, so this thing's running at 18 volts DC, because that's 9 volts plus 9 volts. And the phone's slipping over. Amateur hour, what? Alright. So where were we? Right, so that's pretty much it for the 18-volt smoke detector. When I have access to a soldering iron, I'll get this thing off of here, and maybe I'll do an update on that later. Plus, I've got a friend at work who happens to have a Geiger counter, so we can check that out then and there. Now for the other wee beastie, what woke me up at about 4 o'clock this morning to announce the end of its operational lifespan. Made in China, 26th of November 2011. Key thing here, it says that, if my phone would stop tipping over, 7 years after initial power-up, the unit will chirp every 30 seconds to indicate that it is time to replace the alarm. It wasn't 7 years, but we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt and they thought that 7 and 6 were the same thing. So, let's open up the battery compartment first. Let's see what exactly this sucker uses. Oh look, a 9-volt battery. The original one, it looks like. I may need to screenshot that, or screen cap that. Warning, battery has been removed. Most obvious warning label ever. Alright, let's see how we get into this thing. So there's a plastic-coated paper label on the back here, kind of like an on-site or in-situ lamination. Looks as though the screw is just being held in by a little bit of plastic there, so no bosses or anything like that, and we're not that high-tech on this one. Let's see what we can do by cutting away some of this stuff. We're not really cutting it away, just peeling it away. I have this funny feeling I'm going to wind up cutting it along, or rather prying it along the edge here. Like so. Well, it didn't unexpirate it on me, so it doesn't really matter what I do with it now. And before you ask, yes, we do have another carbon monoxide detector in the house. Yeah, there we go. Tamper resist disable slide. Okay, so that's the tamper resist. Question still remains, how do I get in? Okay, here's one tab. 2 tabs. Which way do you go? Three tabs. And 4 up top side here. Ho-ho! Nice. Oh, what have we here? This is a completely different sort of board. Same company here. Kitty, 1998. And I guess I tore it off here, but Kitty also 2011. All right. This is a completely different animal. All right, so not exactly completely. You notice how they're still using that really clever little jumper wire switch up here, but this time it says the anti-tamper. When you take this off the wall, this little thingamabobber right here stops contacting the wall plate. This is held in place by the friction of the springs in the outlet, and then it beeps at you with the battery inside. But what's the rest of this doing? Alright, so we've got a 9-volt backup over here. And, geez, talk about an improvement in craftsmanship here. So these two 9-volt battery tabs are actually bent in place. And they have these little retention clips right here. See if we can get that out. Oh, I see. If I try and get that out this way, then the wire is going to interfere with that. Let's leave those alone then. Alright. Now up to the top side here. You can see right there, we've got 120 VAC coming in, but oddly enough, with red and black wires. Guys, that's AC, not DC. Amateur hour. Alright. May have to cut these. Please excuse the gratuitous use of shears. still importing tools back into the workshop. Back in place. All right, and similarly, well, could Dremel that out and get a nice little connector out of it. Power connections. All right, board time. Okay. Gone from single-sided board. Oh wait, no, we're still single-sided here. This is complete with a solder mask as well. And we've got, let's see, this, is that paraffin? I think it is. I think that's candle wax. Somebody went down to the grocery store and bought some Gulf wax and dropped it on the board. And, oh, well, you know, we got another ASIC here, and it's branded Kitty. I don't know if you can see that. Right there, there's the logo up top. All right. So, what's the rest of this doing? Beautiful board. Over here, we have the very, very low power bridge rectifier, and that's just saying they're converting the AC that's coming in over here to DC. Top side, we've got a looks like a pretty standard silicon steel power transformer here, rated for 115 volts, 60 hertz, 1 volt amp, so approximately let's see, that would be 0.707 watts. So this thing's very, very low power compared to a lot of other things you'll find in your house with bridge rectifiers in it. But at the same time, for some reason, they really bulked up on the iron here. Not certain what the ratio is here, but I'm gonna go with probably a 10 to 1. That'd give us 12 VDC on the backside here. Roughly coming out this side of the bridge rectifier. Then we have another IC here, which I'm going to guess is probably some sort of, not an ASIC, but probably something programmable. Usually they'll do this thing where they've got a label on top with a firmware version on top of a programmable IC like an Atmega or a PIC or, you know, usual microcontroller suspects. So let's take that off of there. Let's see if we can make out what the heck the chip underneath is. Don't mind me. Dang it. AVE doesn't have these problems. That's because the sucker never shows his face on camera. Oh, here we are. There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, I unmask for you a PIC chip. There's the microchip logo, and in fact it even says PIC 16F something or another, so that's a flash memory 16-bit programmable IC. Now, I'm still trying to remember who bought who, but Microchip and Atmel are now one and the same company. But that's kind of immaterial to this. Now we get into this stuff over here. All of these look like surface mount resistors, and they are. But the resistance is very specific. It's 0 ohms. Excuse me for a moment. Got a yellow jacket flying around down here. So these are jumpers that are allowing them to basically program this thing, then put a bunch of jumpers in and change the topology a little bit. And now I'm seeing why they're doing that. Because this is a single layer board. Normally if you looked at something like this, you'd expect to see two different layers on either side. The jumpers are kind of a way, a very clever way, I might add, of bringing the signal from one side of a trace to another. And you can see actually underneath some of these jumpers, there are multiple traces that go underneath. So this is a way of turning a one-sided board into a two-sided board. It's kind of hacky. I don't know why they didn't just go for the single-layer PCB. But it's kind of cool at the same time. So if you're ever in a pinch and your boss will only let you buy a one-layer board, just get a whole bunch of 0-ohm jumpers and you can turn it into a two-layer board. Alright, so now we come to the sensing side of things, and that is this. And this thing right up top here, sorry, let me frame this a little bit. This thing is our actual carbon monoxide detector, and this thing right here up top is the reason it has a limited lifespan, and that is a dry write packet, also known as silica beads. So carbon monoxide detection is a, if I remember correctly, I think this is a catalytic detector, and so you're looking at the amount of conductivity that you get out of this when you have carbon monoxide going into it. Problem is that wire screws with that in a big way, and so you need to have some sort of desiccant on the front side. So let's see if we can open that up a little bit. As I said, please excuse the gratuitous use of shears, as I am still importing tools to the new workshop here. Like getting the lid off of one of those hummus tubs that just does not want to come. Alright. Got it. Alright, so that's out of the way. What do we got here? Right, there's a tiny, tiny little pinhole here in the very middle of this. What you're looking for in this whole thing is diffusion into that pinhole of carbon monoxide. And I'm still not 100% certain whether this is catalytic or if it is instead something that's capacitive. So we have connections on both ends here. And this one is looped for some reason by this little trace between these two terminals. This trace goes into the middle. Usually that's what you do when you want to isolate a signal. Then you put ground on either side of it. Then the other side of this is also isolated from ground. And these two terminals, which were on this wrap wire here, this wrapped wire here, those both look to be grounded. So let's get this out of here and see what happens. Looks like we've got a little bit of double stick tape or something underneath there. Yep. Triple-sided tape, always. Alright. Kitty 800-0437 and a bunch of other numbers, probably a date code there, 11/10/31. I'm going to guess possibly Halloween of 2011. Don't remember what it says here. Manufacturing was November 26th, so yeah, that would make sense. And now we've got a little O-ring of some description up here, separating this from the rest of the beastie. Let's see if we can't get that out of there and see what's inside. And we also have this little spacer here. It's made out of what looks to be some sort of polyethylene. So far we're pretty certain, in my opinion, that there's no heater in here. I'm pretty certain that this is either capacitive or catalytic. The other possibility that exists is that this might be neither, and might be some sort of fuel cell sort of arrangement. That's close to catalytic. Okay, so I've busted the O-ring at this point. Now there really is no going back. I believe this may require tweezers. Which ones? Let's go in for the bright blue Vituses. Now my worry is that once I get this ring out of here, this is still going to be sealed underneath. Mechanically sealed, that is. Now we're going to take a very brief intermission and fix the camera mount, which is an old blind block. So Rolf, you see, I will actually have made something today. There you have it. An iPhone camera holder for the workbench. Matthias Wandel, eat your heart out. Alright, where were we? Oh yes, the O-ring. That's not me humming, that's the Yellow Jacket in the background. I was afraid I might stab myself with this thing. These tweezers are sharp. Luckily, it doesn't seem to have drawn blood. Switching back over to something a little duller. Almost rhymes. There we are. Getting a little bit more of the O-ring out here. They do not make this easy to get apart, but that's probably for good reason. It's not meant to be taken apart. Oh well. What are you gonna do? Thing's expirated. Gotta do something with it. I think that something is take it apart. Sorry, I'm moving out of the frame of focus here. Can you tell I haven't really done this much? I'm just putting the screwdriver in there and prying against this. See if I can lift the crimped top here a little bit. Oh dear. We've released some shmoo. There's some sort of liquid in there. Some sort of electrolyte. Alright, so that makes sense to me. This is indeed an electrochemical device. And so this is probably the electrolyte that's sealed inside. I have to see what this says on the back of it about its contents. It does not say anything about the contents of the sensor. So I have no idea what that liquid is. Best I leave it alone, right? I'm considering doing so. Well, I think I have a nice handy dandy plastic bag right here. Move this over into it. Pull that up and put it aside. And that is what we got from today. A couple of expirated smoke and CO detectors, respectively. And shmoo of a nature we know not. Well, Rolf, this has been a fun adventure. Over half an hour of it. Way longer than our normal videos. I'll talk to you later. Special guest star, the